Good morning, everyone. Anthony, we're on.
Are we on?
We on.
You usually tell me when we're on.
I know, but normally I'm behind the scenes. I'm not. I'm talking to you in your ear. I'm not on live. I thought you would hear me when I said, "Hey, hello, everyone."
No, you usually say, "Hey, we're on." So as you can see, we started off a little crazy this morning. Welcome everybody to another episode of AZ Update, episode 30. We've hit 30, Pierre. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I didn't think we'd get to 30. I figured after five.
Sorry.
I figured after five, the novelty would wear off and nobody would show up. So.
Well, we got a lot in the chat as always. Paul Jensen's joining us today. We have Akos, who's here as well. Well, he's telling us good afternoon. It's morning for us. It is a Black Friday, so we don't expect to see our U.S. friends to be joining us today because they're on a holiday.
They're on Turkey Coma.
Turkey Coma. I do know Patch Switch is happening today, so that is coming up in 2 hours' time. Pierre, that's a nice shirt you got there.
This is my launch edition Project Scarlet, which for those uninitiated is the code name for the Xbox Series X.
Now, you recently picked up an Xbox Series X, and what's been your thoughts so far?
I'm very, very happy with it. It's connected to my 4K TV, so my old Xbox One didn't have 4K. This one does, so it makes a world of difference in terms of the gaming experience, the shading, and the quality of the image on screen is ridiculous compared to what I had before. There aren't that many games right now that have specifically been designed for the Series X, so we can't really see the full power of it just yet. It's nice and small. I expected it to be more bulky, but it's a reasonable size, so it fits nicely in my kind of like wall unit or media area. The controller is about the same, except for a little share button on it. It's good so far. I'm looking forward to taking it through its paces. And I acquired it into kind of anybody knows you can't find anywhere. They're sold out everywhere.
I know.
Apparently,
I'm trying to get one.
Yeah.
With no success.
My daughter's friend, who's an avid gamer, pre-ordered one for him and his father so that they could have this time in pandemic to play games together. And unfortunately, about a month and a half ago, his father died, so passed away. So he offered it to me at basically at cost. So I gave him. At cost plus tax plus shipping, but he was very nice. He kind of said he wanted to see it put to good use, so we will try to do that and maybe abuse it some more.
Well, this is the thing, right? We're in these uncertain times.
Yep.
And I think more often than not we forget that we are working from home as opposed to living at work, and the whole breakaway that we have in terms of the gaming piece. And I know yourself, myself, and others have participated in COD, Call of Duty. For those that don't know, we've actually recently started playing a racing game, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which actually was made in 2010. They just remastered it. We've been having fun with that. First time I've ever played a racing game where I had opponents drive backwards, but that's another story for another day.
It worked, didn't I? I evaded the EMP weapon or the EMP, yeah.
You did. Awesome strategy.
It worked.
But you know what, though? It's been an awesome breakaway to remember that, we have to take time for ourselves. I do know that Rick has taken time for himself for the last couple of days, and rightfully so. We need to take a break because it becomes too much sometimes with everything going on, plus work, plus family life, and having that breakaway through gaming for me has been an awesome therapeutic moment to really connect and just let go and just be competitive for a moment, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's I find it's my moment of zen each week when we're all getting together online, and it's the equivalent of heading to the corner bar and sitting at the bar with the beer and your buddies, but it's a virtual bar with an M4 in my hands.
Now, if there's any others that are interested in gaming with us, and we game open platform, so when we play Call of Duty and other games, we do play it on open platform, which means bring console X, whatever that you are favored to game on. And as long as you have the same game like Call of Duty or other games, we're happy to connect with you. Pierre, do you want to share the Discord servers, and possibly we can set up games in the general chat area?
That's something we can definitely look at, specifically because today Patch and Switch is running a bit of an experiment. So after their broadcasts, apparently they're setting up an Among Us game online for people to join. So we'll see how that works, what the kinks are, the limitations, and we'll think about doing something like that in the near future.
Yep, sounds good.
Andrew says that the best driving game for him was Network Q Rally in MS-DOS.
Oh, that sounds like pole position on my Commodore 64.
Oregon Trail?
Yeah, Oregon Trail. Hey, Need for Speed for me is awesome because it has specifically Most Wanted. You can be the racer or you can be the pursuer, which is the police. And then you have all those tactics of spike strip and what have you. So it gets really competitive. I know when we play, there's a lot of words that you can't say on television that we share amongst each other. Whoa. I don't know, you mentioned a Zen moment. I don't see it as too much as Zen, but it definitely is a great stress reliever. Let's get started with the news, shall we?
Yep.
All right. So first up is the new Azure Portal updates that are made available. This is awesome, and it usually happens monthly, and we don't usually bring them to your attention because the changes are so minor. But this one is a bigger change that we wanted to highlight specifically on the ability to move resources to a new region. In previous times, there would be a full-on manual process that would be required to move your resources in Azure to a different region. I've actually experienced this with a lot of organizations that are, global companies, and the challenges they have in terms of latency in regards to resources, specifically being on premises, being accessed from other regions around the world. We did an experiment with one large engineering firm where we moved their data from SQL on premises to Cosmos DB up in Azure, and then added the regional functionality. In this essence here, you're now able from the portal to specifically go forward and move the resources from your existing region to another region if required. So if there's a requirement from a department within your organization around the world to gain access to resources that may need it more so than others, the ability to move regions is a huge one, especially now in the fact that it's literally a menu option that you can actually select the region itself and move it. So like this, we have the ability to go through now, select the specific regions, and here are the steps on how to complete this move. There's also been a filter update that's been made available as well, that you can actually go forward and select the region that you're in, or the regions that are available to your resources, and have the ability to understand which resources are positioned in what region and how to move those across accordingly. Pierre, thoughts?
This is actually great. It's going to be very, very useful for me personally, because every time I set up a demo, for some reason, I start my environment, create my virtual network, do my resource group in like East US, or East Canada East. And then I end up having to add some more resources to it, and somehow they always default back to West US, so I end up with two different places. So I'll be able to just, instead of deleting the resource and recreating it, I'll be able to just move it. I can see a lot of people doing that, especially when we're getting new regions. So for example, our friends in Sweden, the Swedish data center has been announced. Not open just yet, but it's been announced. So when it is in place, and they want to move the data back in country so that they have data residency and data sovereignty issues, they'll be able to move their resources back to the data center that they want. I know this was a big issue when we opened. Was it the Switzerland data center? Where a lot of companies complained that there was no easy ways to actually move their, because Switzerland amongst the European Union and everything, some companies wanted to move their data, move their resources back into Switzerland for that particular reason, for data residency, and they had to basically do it manually, as you mentioned. So this is going to help a lot on that end.
Yep, it helps a lot with the ability to quickly move to a new region if required, and an ability to address latency if there's specific data that a specific region requires access to. Let's continue on with the news. Pierre, you're up next.
I am. Wait, I'm also doing the producing bit, so give me a sec.
Yep.
There we go. Resource Manager templates support for Azure File Share Backup. I've been working with the ARM team for a long time, as you know. And this is one of those that's been on the wish list for a while. There are certain resources that you cannot put in an ARM templates up to now. We're slowly making them all, putting them all in there. So Azure Resource Manager templates up to now did not support setting up a backup schedule for a Azure file share. So you could do it for a blob or for a VM or for other things like that, but not for a file share backup. So now with this, you can set up, if you're using ARM templates to set up file shares across the world, you can actually use that same ARM template that sets up your environment and your file share to actually set up the protection of it. So if you're doing that, or if you're doing linked templates, you can organize your linked templates in such a way that whenever a file share is open, a backup is also created of it, which increases your security in terms of if something gets corrupted, if you get attack by some crypto malware or something like that, you always have a backup, because if you wait for somebody to set it up manually, or if you're waiting to set it up manually yourselves after you create it, we all know that manual processes at some point end up either being delayed or forgotten altogether.
Now, Akos in the chat room is excited about the new availability of the ARM template utilization, and I've used ARM templates in Azure Portal. I know the functionality in PowerShell and CLI is available as well. I've not dabbled in that yet. Sounds like a good future blog post. What has been your take in terms of the utilization of ARM templates in PowerShell and CLI for what purposes?
I'm not quite sure I understand the direction of the question.
So in terms of utilization for me has been GUI based for ARM template utilization. In using the same solution in PowerShell and CLI, what are the advantages?
Well, CLI and PowerShell are imperative scripting model. An ARM template is a declarative template model, which means that the template to actually tell the service provider, which in the case the ARM Resource Manager, this is what I want it to look like, just go do it. And Azure CLI and PowerShell are, okay, do this command. Now wait till it finishes, do this command, wait till it finishes, do this command. So there are some efficiencies that you can have with an ARM template in terms of doing it in parallel. So you could be setting up your environment and you set it up, and if the Azure Resource Manager model deemed that it can set it up, there's no dependencies between the two. It actually can set up, let's say your recovery vault and your file share at the same time. So it sets up your recovery vault, sets up your file share at the same time, so they're ready at the same or very closely together. and then you can set up the schedule, as opposed to having to set up the file share, then wait for that to complete. Then I have to set up the recovery vault, then wait for that to complete, then set up the schedule. So you see, you can have some very significant efficiencies by using ARM. ARM is not easy. We have a great plug. We have a great Learn module that I posted, or we talked about a couple weeks ago, that we are now adding 2 more units to it. One on the testing module, the TTK, and the other one is, I'm having a brain fart. It must be Friday morning. I forget, but Stephen Murawski's actually worked on that one. I think it's on testing and one on other types of deployments. Oh, yeah, scheduled deployments and organized more deployments.
So yeah, we have shared out the Learn module before. If you look at previous blog posts on itopstock.com, you will see as one of the modules of the week that we did share out that module. We might be able to find it during the show. It might be hard just because it's just Pierre and I today. But if you do check back on a couple of the blog posts that are there, you'll probably find a link for that one specifically that you can click on and check it out yourself. Let's continue on with the news. So next up is a post that was shared by Sonia Cuff and contributed by Oren Thomas. It's the use of Windows Admin Server on premises to manage the Azure Windows Server VMs. Now, if you signed up for the preview, you know that there's a lot of people that are subscribed to the preview for Windows Admin Center, so it may be a challenge in getting in regards to this. Everybody's excited for this tool. Oren and Sonia have come together and have actually written a process to take the Windows Admin Center functionality or tool itself and spin it up in a VM on premises. For you to then have the ability to manage your infrastructure from your on-premises implementation of Windows Admin Server to your Windows VMs in Azure. Why would you do this? So this is an interesting one. If you're in a hybrid scenario and you have the functionality where your solution is obviously connected via VPN to your implementation on cloud in Azure VMs, you have the ability to control your Windows Admin Center from your on-premises implementation. This may be a requirement for your certification or your ISO standards in terms of your control mechanisms or tools that are required to manage your resources, and the fact that there might have to be a touch point that has to stay on-premises and cannot be cloud-based. That's probably the number one functionality or requirement that some may look at if they're looking at doing the deployment of Windows Admin Center from your on-premises implementation. What's great about this post is that it runs you through the steps to enable this type of functionality, and it'll provide you full functionality that you would have in Portal via the add-in from your virtual machine on-premises to manage your cloud implementation. Pierre?
Yeah, so this is great. It's just one more way to have a single tool to manage everything. And I've been writing a post that will go live probably next week on different methods, because I find that hybrid management is becoming a little bit confusing because we have all these different tools and different approaches to do the same thing or something very, very similar. So I'm working on that right now, so if anybody's interested.
So what's interesting is, we talk about this a lot, right? You have all these resources that are out there. There's requirement for controls. There's requirement for spinning up or reducing of services that are out there. Doing this from a single pane of glass is a huge deal because it reduces the complexity of managing all the services that you've deployed amidst your organization, and the ability to have multiple functionality or multiple capabilities of deploying this management tool. It allows you to adhere best practices that your business or your organization has to abide by when managing the resources that are out there. We talk a lot about, in terms of the services themselves and the ISO certs or the certifications that are required to be followed in order to ensure that you are compliant. We talk about that from a services and resources perspective. Now there's the availability of doing that from a management tool perspective as well, which is huge because now it's another granularity of control that you can offer to your organization that you support, and again, from a single pane of glass to manage all your resources, which is really cool.
Yeah,
All right, continuing on with the news. Oh, sorry.
and when we
Go
think about it, when the actual WAC in Portal experience comes out a preview, and I think right now it's also in limited preview.
on. Correct.
It's going to take away the need for dedicating new resources just to support WAC, because it's going to be built into the portal. So that's going to be fantastic.
Oh, 100%. Let's continue on with the news. Pierre, you're up next.
I am. Okay, so multiple new features in Azure VPN gateways are now generally available, and I know I tweeted it this a couple weeks ago, or last week, sorry. I was saying finally, because there's some things in here that people have been waiting for a long time, specifically the support for fully qualified domain names in site-to-site VPN. And also the fact that if you go down in Anthony's driving that that page. So if you go down in the page a little bit, Anthony,
Yeah.
it's not in that particular one, but it was in the documentation, the other documentation. Anyway, there's now support for FQDN in terms of filtering in your firewall rules, which is absolutely great. So highly available Radius servers in point-to-site VPN. So for those of you who are using the Radius server instead of certificates or other types of authentication, now you have the high availability of that Radius, which is great, especially in the age of the human malware where everybody's connecting remotely. You can have now custom policy and custom timeout for your DPB, so your dead peer detection. So it detects that the person at the other end of that point-to-point connection is no longer there, so that flushes the session and other. I'm not going to go through all of the add-ons, but we are at a point now where a lot of the services are getting more mature, and we're adding things that have been on the wish list for a long time. Same for Azure Firewall, and now the Azure VPN, or the point-to-point or VPN gateways. We are now adding a lot more functionality in terms of making it almost at par with some of the more mature black box that you could buy from Fortinet, from Juniper, from Cisco, like VPN gateways that have been around for a decade, that have basically grown in terms of feature set. We are getting very close to par in terms of those feature set with these companies.
So the FQDN actually is point number 4 on that screen there, and that's a huge one, especially if you're a small business and you're trying to keep costs down. The no longer requirement for a static IP, static public IP for connection of your VPN gateways, using the fully qualified domain name to connect to your VPN gateway is a huge cost savings in regards to that type of security implementation. I know of a lot of point of sale systems that required the static IP enablement. Those may no longer require that anymore. So definitely check with your systems integrator or your architect, your systems architect, when you're looking at those solutions for that availability. The other piece, which is also a great one too, is the session management and revocation of point-to-site VPN users. An individual has left your organization. You now have, from the session management capabilities, to revoke that access immediately when notified that this individual is no longer there. Previous to, there was a whole bunch of steps that you have to go to. Now, literally, it's a switch, and it turns off the connection immediately, and that individual no longer has connection or accessibility to your data.
Yes, and you mentioned FQDN as a for the one point of the point-to-point tunnel.
Yep.
It is great that we're finally able to do that, but there are more than just setting up the fully qualified domain name in your connection, because you have to look at, especially if you're on a if you're not on a like big commercial type of connection, if you're a small business. Some people are running small business on residential residential connection as well. because there's a delay in when the your ISP changes your IP address to when your fully qualified domain name changes. So you'll have to be able to make sure that you accommodate for that, and you basically reduce the time to live in your DNS, in your DDNS, your dynamic DNS, so that your new IP address gets registered really quickly.
So we have 4 minutes left, and let's jump through the events that are coming up right now. So we probably have heard, as we said earlier in the show, it is a fortnight, which means Patch and Switch, the two turkeys that survived Thanksgiving, have made it to this Friday, and we'll have a live episode going on. And they will be doing a Among Us game at the end of the episode, which is really cool. Definitely interested to check that out.
Yep.
Next up is the Festive Tech Calendar.
That's right.
Also available, and we talked about that last week, and we're going to talk about it again because it's such a great opportunity to connect with the community worldwide. The participation is great. I know, Pierre, you actually have a session alongside Thomas and Sarah. Do you want to talk about that really quick?
It's really not a big session. I'm actually going to have a lot of fun. It's an AMA session between Thomas Maurer, Sarah Lean, and myself. So it's going to be ask us literally anything in terms of like, what's your favorite pasta, all the way to technical questions. So it's going to be fun. A little scary because it's kind of hard to prepare for something that you don't know what the questions are going to be. But no, it's going to be cool. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think after that, it'll be a great time for a holiday break.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually going to be on the 8-Bits show hosted by Chloe Condon and Brandon Minnick on Tuesday, I believe, December the 1st. It'll be on the Microsoft Developer channel on YouTube and on Twitch. So look out for that. That's going to be an interesting conversation. Two developers and an IT pro. What type of conversations are going to come out of that? It's going to be a fun one. They're also gamers as well, so it'll be interesting conversations around that as well. Last but not least, as always, the Microsoft Learn module of the week. Take it away, Pierre.
The Microsoft Learn module of the week is because we've talked about WAC, we've talked about VPN, so that kind of leads us towards hybrid. So it is implement Windows Server hybrid cloud management, monitoring, and security. Sorry, there we go. So implementing Windows Server hybrid cloud management, step by step, how to set it up, your experiences in Active Directory or Azure Active Directory, your domain services, DNS, DFS, Hyper-V, file storage, and so on. Setting up your on-premise resiliency, experience in implementing IaaS services in Azure through the WAC, and so keeping with the hybrid theme this week, it's a wonderful Learn module that takes you all step by step and guided through setting up those hybrid management scenarios that I would estimate probably 80 to 90% of our customers are still needing. So check it out.
Yep, definitely check that out. We've got 1 minute left. Pierre, if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
On the Twitters, on the interwebs, I can be found at Wired Canuck.
And quick hello and goodbye, actually, to Paul Jensen, Akos, and Sharon Bennett on our chat room. If you want to join us in our chat room, you can catch us on our blog, itopsoc.com. There's a direct link to the chat room that allows you to participate. We also grab in the chat from the Twitch TV and from MS Learn TV when we do the broadcast. If you want to get
actually, we're not tied into the Learn TV chat just yet. Still working on that.
We will be. We'll work on that to get that included as well. If you want to get a hold of me, you can do so via Twitter at Wireless Life. Pierre, awesome show as always. Everybody else that are on holiday, enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you all next week. Those who are not on holiday, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Ciao.